Joining us now is Congresswoman Katherine Clark of Massachusetts. You just heard from her. She is the #2 Democrat in the House, serving as the Democratic whip.
Welcome, Congresswoman. It's great to have you back at the table. So I want to have a little fun with you at the beginning. This great headline on NBC News this morning talking about House Democratic leaders vow to do everything they can do to stop the GOP bill from passing. And the first thought I had was, what, you mean you haven't done everything already? And I think that was kind of the vibe out there across the country with a lot of voters. What are you doing? What can you do? You know very well that the House rules do not allow for real bipartisanship. In other words, the minority is the worst. A bucket of spit is probably more value in the House than being in the minority oftentimes, because you can't use the rules, you can't work the process. So the question begs itself, what do you see today being an example, getting out in front of microphones, getting out in town halls, getting out in front of America to tell them exactly what's inside this bill? How does that play out for Democrats?
Michael, that's exactly right. This is a winner-take-all town. When you win the majority, you have the overwhelming amount of tools. But that can't be an excuse, because this is a cruel and shameless bill that is going to have an impact on Americans and our healthcare system for generations. So we're going to do every procedural thing we can do. We will hold the press conferences. We have been touring the country talking about what is in this bill, because when people understand it, they hate it. And they do not understand why their member of Congress would be voting to take away their health care, to take away food programs, veterans benefits, all just for tax breaks for billionaires. So whatever happens tonight with the Republicans, and I think eventually they will browbeat their members into voting yes on this. We have to continue that fight. We have to go to the public. We have to make the case, and we have to do everything we can to defeat them in elections.
Representative Clark, you may be able to count among the Americans who don't understand why Republicans would do some of these things the president himself. This headline absolutely stopped me in my tracks today. This is from Notice. Trump still doesn't seem to have a firm grasp about what his signature legislative achievement does. According to 3 sources with direct knowledge of the comments, the president told Republicans at this meeting that there are 3 things Congress shouldn't touch if they want to win elections: Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. But we're touching Medicaid in this bill, one member responded to Trump, according to 3 sources. Is it possible that the president of the United States does not understand what is in the legislation he is currently jamming through the U.S. House of Representatives?
It certainly seems that is the case. I mean, how can he not know that this bill cuts $1 trillion with a T dollars out of Medicaid? That is going to be, between that and the cuts to the ACA, 17 million Americans who are going to have their health care ripped away from them. But it goes on. Because of formulas, it will cut $500 billion from Medicare. This is something Donald Trump has pledged over and over he will never touch. And meanwhile, they continue to erode the Social Security Administration, all with the goal: you break it so you can rob it. So those 3 pillars he says they will never touch are directly and cruelly and devastatingly impacted in this bill.
You know, Congresswoman, Democrats have had a show of force today. That press conference that we showed at the top, that was earlier this morning. And then the procedural slowdown was led by the Congressional Black Caucus today. But the individual members are doing what they can, using the tools at their disposal, the limited tools, because they are in the minority. But I'm wondering about the magic minute. It is a procedural tool that Leader Jeffries has at his disposal. It has been used by his predecessors in the past, notably, and I believe it was 2018, Speaker then Pelosi used it to I think she was on the floor for more than 8 hours, 8 hours and 7 minutes, to protest the budget bill at the time because it did not include DACA recipients. She talked extensively about and told stories about the people who were being affected. Kevin McCarthy used it in 2021. I worked at the White House at the time. He went a little longer than Pelosi. He went 8 hours and 27 minutes, I do believe, to hold up the Build Back Better Act. And he talked about all kinds of things that weren't in there, like critical race theory. But the Magic Minute is a tool at Jeffries' disposal. So will he use it to, again, put a finer point and more focus on the dangers that Democrats say are in this bill, which I would agree with the dangers. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We will see a leader, Jeffries, using that Magic Minute tonight. That will be in the debate portion. If they pass the rule, get through this procedural hurdle, that would be the time where he would use that Magic Minute, which is just a power that he has of the leader not to have a time restriction on what he can say during debate of the actual bill.
And we could see him go longer than Kevin McCarthy, possibly, who broke Speaker Pelosi's record.
We will see what Hakeem
all right.
does.
Might be a long night, folks.
Popcorn ready. So I want to flip to the other side of the aisle for a moment. Because we were talking about the procedures that you have to go through, and those are all set by the majority, by the Speaker. I find it rather amusing that you have another headline screaming at me today. The Republican budget reconciliation bill is awful. These Republicans say how bad it is. Oh my God, it's so bad. Yeah. The only response I had to that was just shut the hell up because you're going to vote for it anyway.
That's right.
At the end of the day, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we all come back to that same point on the table. The bill is here. It sucks harder than anything anybody knows. It's a bad bill. And Republicans will line up one by one.
That's right.
Genuflect to Donald Trump and put their name against the bill. So is that then another narrative opportunity in the districts? Because I've noticed the Democrats have been taking on, I think you did a little bit of taking on Republicans that are not necessarily in your district. They're in other districts. You've got calling out swing district Republican today at this press conference. Let's take a listen to what you did there.
So who would vote for this bill? Why would David Valadao vote for this bill? Over 65,000 people in his district will lose access to health care if this passes. 60,000 households will lose access to their food assistance. And over 3,600 energy jobs will be lost. Just in California, 22.
I like that. Because now you're playing the game where they are. How did that feel to do that? And how much more of that will Americans see?
Yeah, and that was not just something that I did, but was repeated by Democrats through that press conference, because we have to hold them accountable. I mean, who would vote for this bill? Let's look at what is happening. We'll take David Valadao. He wrote a letter to the Speaker back at the beginning of this process saying these Medicaid cuts are unsustainable in my district. Then he voted yes on the House version. 2 weeks ago, he joined another letter with 16 House Republicans saying, again, we cannot afford to cut health care in this way for our communities. And we will see tonight, I'm afraid, that once again, they're going to vote yes, because the fear of Donald Trump is overriding what's the right thing to do for the people they represent. And let's look at Louisiana. Louisiana's state legislature passed a resolution condemning this bill because of the impact on Medicaid. In Speaker Johnson's district, 40% of Louisianians are on Medicaid in his own district. Louisiana is a supermajority Republican. This is not easy to write off as some woke institution that they don't believe in. They are telling us what the American people are telling us. that this is not the right thing to do. When you take away that ability to hit the first rung of the American dream, you are saying to people so clearly, your family doesn't matter. You are expendable as long as we are taking care of the very wealthiest.
Well, to that point, if today they pass this legislation through the House, I think you're going to hear a lot of happy talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, and an emphasis on the pieces of this, the few pieces of this they think they can sell, like no tax on tips, which is why I think it is important to underline the fact that the no tax on tips only goes through 2028. What does it tell you? That they only want to put that policy in place for 3 years, but they are willing to codify in perpetuity tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans.
Yeah, it is all part of this tax scam. It is all part of taking this historical transfer of wealth from the working and middle class to the billionaire class. The tax policies that could be popular, the Democrats would love to work on a way that we make our tax code more fair, that represents things like the gig economy and the way people are making money and putting their economic lives together. Let's have that conversation. But when you look at the details, the American people, at least 99.6 of us, don't make the cut. And what they're really doing is continuing to make income inequality, to rig our tax code against people who are working hard, playing by the rules, and just want a fair shot at success. 60% of the households in this country are unable right now to meet the basic needs for their family. And the answer to that is not only take away their health care, take away food programs and public school funding, but then to further rig the system against them. This makes absolutely no sense, and it is a dangerous, dangerous bill to inflict on the American people.